brief remarks. We'll each get 1 hour of CLE credit after this of this. I have to state my disclaimer, which I know by heart. The opinions I'm about to express are my very personal and heartfelt opinions and not those of the state of California, its Labor and Workforce Development Agency, its Department of Industrial Relations, its Division of Workers' Compensation, or the Workers' Compensation of Pittsburgh. They are my sincerest feelings, and I want to start by saying thank you to each and every one of you. I really am. I have a lot of people to thank, and I have to start by thanking everyone in LatinoComp, its board of directors, its executive board. I want to thank Daniel Isabel for coming to Van Nuys to tell me the good news. I have been selected as the Judge of the Year. I want to thank Isabel Pires for coordinating everything, Moises Vasquez for writing such a great biography. I've never had such a comprehensive treatment. I feel like I have a book about me now, or a screenplay, or something I could run with. So I'm really, really flattered by this treatment, and I want to thank everyone who worked on this event. This is a beautiful party. I always look forward to it every year, and to be the honoree. Normally, you have to retire or die to get a party like this. I have no plans to retire. So I want to thank everybody who worked so hard on this event, and I want to thank the workers, too, who made this event possible, the people who are working here, including our servers, those in the back of the house who prepared the food. Let's thank the ones who worked so hard to bring us food, to harvest and pack and transport our food that we eat here today and every day. And at any meal of thanks, as this is clearly a meal of thanks, I need to thank God for his many blessings, even in a world that is confusing and unjust. He is present. To quote the theologian Joe Strummer of The Clash, if you ain't thinking about man and God and law, you ain't thinking about nothing. So on those high thoughts, I have to continue my thanks to ask, why am I here? Well, because of my parents. I need to thank my mother and father for being the most supportive parents possible, and without them, I would not be here in every sense of that phrase. And I want to thank my wife, of course, Natasha, for being the best and most supportive wife. To know her is to love her, and with Natasha, every day is an adventure. I want to thank my children for being here. Anna and Alexander, for taking a break from your college studies to be here. I'm proud of you both, and I thank you for being patient with me through my career as I spent long hours, sometimes evenings and weekends in the office. Sometimes I dragged you to the office with me, so thank you for being patient with me when I did that. And Al has a contagious enthusiasm for music and technology. He taught me how to run cameras at church. And Anna is a classically trained pianist and gymnastics coach. And as far as I know, she's the only non-attorney to ever be elected an officer of the half Norwegian on the mother's side American Bar Association. A true story, I took her to their meeting, and they immediately elected her VP and made her the MC. So I know that it's also very special to have my brother Troy here from Northern California, my nephew John, and I'm glad they could make it here just for this. My brother and I have a lot in common besides parents. He's a musician like I am. He plays the piano and the bass guitar and drums and other instruments, and we grew up together, learning music together and expressing it together. And he's also a judge. He's a beer judge. Now that's absolutely serious. He's certified. He's not just a beer judge because he loves beer. He's actually certified through the Beer Judge Certification Program. You can look it up. If you need his judgment on a particular brew, just ask him. And my nephew John is a certified IT professional, so you can ask him about that, and he has good opinions about beer as well. John's also an epic saxophone player. So I want to thank all my former clients for trusting me with their cases. That means a lot to me. I want to thank my early clients. When I had really no experience, they trusted this young attorney with work here and around the world in civil litigation and international transactional matters. And one fine day, it was an injured worker who came in my door, and that introduced me to the world of workers' compensation. But I really became a specialist instead of a generalist when I joined Shining & Fargo. So I really have to thank at Shining Fargo Lisa Voce. She's the one who believed in my ability to do the job and picked my resume from a stack of attorneys' resumes, even though my picture wasn't on it. And I want to thank Lisa for helping me to think like a comp attorney. In fact, everybody at Shining Fargo really did a great job of showing me an example of how to be a good attorney and a good person. I want to thank Mike Fargo and Mike Shiney for being great bosses and mentors, and Jeff Morgan for being a mentor to me when I didn't know anything about being a defense attorney. And I want to thank Judge Dan Tervier. He used to have a door covered with little snippets we put on there of the most embarrassing and awkward moments. And we put them on Dan Tervier's door. We called it the door of shame. Here, I'll give you an example. There was a snippet from a deposition someone took. The question was, what symptoms were you having following the accident? The answer was, well, I was pregnant at the time. And the follow-up question was, okay, was that caused by the truck hitting you? So Judge Tervier's door was covered with these kinds of little awkward moments. And it made a big difference getting through the day, being defense attorneys. And as Mr. Rivera said, and I want to thank him for that warm introduction, it is not easy. And well, as Roxana Soltani knows too, she was a defense attorney as well. And as a defense attorney, you lose, it's just damage control. But it's all in for a good cause, to help injured workers who need their benefits. And it takes everybody working together to make sure the benefits are administered fairly and justly. At Shining Fargo, I also want to thank Liz Valenzuela, a great source of inspiration, who taught a CLE course with me. I want to thank Jeff Reynolds, Jason Nikolowski, Dan Choquette, Alex Ginsberg, Jim Rademacher, Sylvan de Maison, everybody at that firm, including my assistants, Suzanne, Jenny, and Paula. They're all brilliant, good-natured, and wonderful. And I wish Ricardo Benitez and Bob Gilpin were around to celebrate with us today, too. Just as Shining & Fargo turned me into a comp attorney, the law firm of Rowan, Gervey, and Wynn gave me years of unparalleled professional and personal growth and prepared me to be a judge. And it was there that I learned not only great knowledge and skills, but I also developed a strong compassion for injured workers. I especially have to thank Alan Gervey, not just for that wonderful introduction, but for being my mentor and friend for many years, as well as my boss. He's not only the managing partner of Rowan, Gervey, and Wynn, but he's the managing partner of Your Lives when he does Gervey's Law on KBC 790. Google that, and you won't be disappointed. He's interviewed luminaries such as F. Lee Bailey, Alan Dershowitz, and Gloria Allred. And then one fine day, he interviewed me too. And I got a job at Rowan, Gervey, and Wynn, and he was the managing partner of my life and my career, and I have to thank him for that from the bottom of my heart. Yeah. I also have to thank Mike Wynn and Brian Kramer for being great colleagues and friends. Everybody who worked with me at Rowan, Gervey, and Wynn, Annie LeCanyon, Bernice Fong, and I worked, of course, with many alums of the firm, such as Judge Bushin, Kimberly Pryor, Bailey Rad, Erica Wise, and I think every one of them would have to admit that there was no better place to learn about the law than Rowan, Gervey, and Wynn. They had very high standards and were very passionate about helping their clients. I want to thank the excellent staff at Rowan, Gervey, and Wynn who inspired me every day. People like Yvette, Elsa, Sally, Norma, Tina, Hunter, and Chris. And they had an indefatigable energy to serve injured workers, even when those workers tried their patience as we tried their cases. My former boss at the WCAB, Linda Morgan, deserves special thanks for making Van Nuys into the super board it is, with more than 20 judges. And I also want to thank her for making me a judge. Former Van Nuys PJs David Brotman and Sharon Velzy have done a great job at what is the hardest job in comp, running the Van Nuys board. I want to thank Chief Judge Paige Levy for providing strong leadership in our system, especially through the pandemic. And I want to thank Associate Chief Justices Jamie Spitzer, John Durr, and Mark Fudum for their watchful eye over the system's 24 board offices from virtually Eureka down to San Diego, which are the hope and the lifeline of injured workers. I'm honored to follow in the footsteps of past Judge of the Year honorees, including Ralph Zamudio, Mark Kahn, Roger Tolman, Pam Faust, Linda Davidson-Guerra, David Seymour, whose rhyme I greatly appreciate, and I often exchange rhymes with him by email. We have a little rhyme battle. It's almost like a rap battle. He'll send me a rhyme, I'll send him one back. I appreciate his repartee. And of course, I appreciate following the footsteps of Chief Judge Levy and PJ Robert Rask, my bandmate and good friend. Thank you for being here. And I want to thank all of my brothers and sisters in the robe who, maybe some of them with more or less patience, do their hearings, but it's a challenging job to try to find substantial justice without encumbrance as parties are arguing with one another, and knowing that there are real people behind it who need help. And I want to thank my colleagues in Van Nuys and call them to be that judge who the parties and especially the injured workers need them to be. Judges Bancroft, Brown, Birch, Bushin, Carbone, Cole, Devine, Graff, Henderson, Hirsch, Kelly, Louie, Marone, Pollock, Seymour, Shubin, Slayton, Summer, Stringfellow, PJ's Velzy, and SAU PJ Gunn, all under one roof. And I hope that every one of them is going to be as inspired as I am to get up every morning to see what we can do to make someone's life better. I want to thank everybody at LexisNexis and editor Robin Kobayashi for allowing me to serve on the editorial board and work on California compensation cases and on Hannah Herlick, Raspin Herlick, and including a new book on workers' compensation discovery that came out just this year with PJ Rask. And I want to thank David DiPaolo for starting WorkComp Central, where I've gotten to teach a ratings course each year with PJ Rask, Bill Carrero, Alan Finston, and Ken Kingdon. I want to thank their education director, Chase Crosley, and their former education director, David Weiss, for helping to put together the band CCNR and starting our ratings tradition. I want to thank the past leaders, Kristen Chavez and Johan Gerbert, for keeping that organization going and keeping David DiPaolo's vision alive. And Ron Halland, their tech guy, I want to thank him for teaching me to make beer. It's true, in our backyard we made what was an attempted IPA. It was an over-hopped challenge to the palate that I named Don't Judge. I want to thank all of the musicians I made music with, but especially CC&R. I thought it stood for Clint, Carrero, and Rasp, but someone told me it stands for Comp, Circus, and Rodeo. Either way, we try to bring the entertainment into something that's a very serious business. So thank you to PJ Robert Rasp, Judge Bill Carrero, Jesse Bernal, John McNeely, Colleen Yelly, Jeff Fistro, who's here tonight. Woo! Thank you to Jay Cohen for covering the bass so I can play the saxophone, and Daniel Rasp for being the musical wonderkind, and we miss him as he's up north. I want to thank everybody who's played in the band for me. You know, my demeanor is partly a function of having music in my life, and I think that if I didn't play music, perhaps I wouldn't be as sanguine as I am about everything. So I would encourage everybody to listen to more music, pick up a musical instrument, and join a band like Retro with PJ Rasp and Al Plopkins, Brian Rooney, Jay Cohen, and Jeff Berman. And before that, I was in a band called Authorize This with Dr. Berman, Kimberly Pryor, Brian Grossman, Tim Reynolds, Eric Garofano, and Brian Padby, who I greatly miss. No one beat the Skins as hard as he did. I'm in a band called Uncle with Dr. Gene Rubenstein. He's a dermatologist extraordinaire. Steve Oxman and a guy named Citizen Shane on the drums. Marmalade Skies is a band I was in. We won the Beatles Fest Battle of the Bands when it was in LA. I'm in that band with Dr. Gene Rubenstein, Robert Mallet, Darren Lantello, and Mark Alexander. And I want to thank my friends in Armenian Space Station. And I'm sorry, Alan, about your hearing there. We'll try to make it a little quieter next time. But if you Google Armenian Space Station, you'll see it's not exactly easy listening. It's definitely hard listening, but a lot of fun with my good friend Barry Uretzian, Maestro Greg Hasharian, and guitar wizards Phil Trehecke and Doug Lyons. I want to thank the people in Falling Doves, Chris Leva, Mike Dorsey, and Greg Smith, for including me in gigs from Los Angeles to the Cavern Club in Liverpool, England, and the Surreal McCoys, the unquiet quintet of spur-whirling, guitar-slinging, tortfeasing Notre Dame law student grads who go to various parts of the earth to play concerts. They're still together. They've gotten over 1 million plays on Spotify, and we're not going to quit our day jobs. I think that works out to about 5 cents for each of us now. But I want to thank them. Each have a stage name because they were trying to come up with a cowboy name. So Eric Huey is Cletus McCoy, Sean Ryan's Billy Saul McCoy, Tim Smith is Elvis McCoy, and Patrick Smith is Goat Boy McCoy. And I'm Clint. They said, you already have a cowboy name, you're just Clint. I kept my name. That's my stage name. Well, I want to thank Steve Chapman on the subject of rock and roll for being a friend and a true rock and roll compatriot. We've seen many fine shows together. I want to thank Eddie Braun for being a friend and introducing me to Gene Rubenstein, with whom I've been in several bands. And I want to thank every attorney who's ever appeared before me on the phone line or in person. Please know that I sincerely like and appreciate every person, regardless of whether or not I ultimately agree with your arguments. It doesn't matter. I just appreciate your being there. I appreciate the fact that we're together in that space and that I'm able to hear what you're saying and make a judgment about it, and that we're all professional about it. And I think workers' comp excels at that. I was a civil attorney before. It's not very civil. It's a misnomer. Workers' comp is more civil than civil practice. So, in concluding, I want to, my hour's not up, but I'll stop early. Thank you everybody who's here tonight. It means a lot to me. And be well and have a great evening.